April 12, 1861, Charleston Harbor, South Carolina, 4:30 a.m. On this infamous morning, the first shots of the Civil War rang out at Fort Sumter, one of the only southern forts still under Union control. During this time, Lincoln was just elected as president. As such, one of his first problems was dealing with the crisis at Fort Sumter. He knew that the troops there only had enough food to survive for 6 more weeks. He also knew that the Confederate troops were approaching the fort's position. A battle was inevitable. Lincoln was a political genius. He knew that if he chose to respond to the Confederate aggression by counterattacking, he would only strengthen and unify the South even more. However, he also knew that if he should just surrender the fort, he would be acknowledging the legitimacy of the Confederacy, which would disillusion states in the Union. He needed to find the balance between the two extremes. Lincoln found this so-called balance by choosing not to defend the fort but not surrendering it either. As expected, the Confederates attacked it anyways.
Lincoln's decision to peacefully deny the fort to the South was a brilliant move. It passed the difficult decision-making to Confederate President Jefferson Davis. Davis now had to decide whether to forcefully take over Fort Sumter, which would make him the instigator of the war, and he didn't want that. Or he could forget about the conquest of Fort Sumter altogether, but this would simply delegitimize him within the Confederation. Either way, he was facing huge problems, thanks to Lincoln's brilliant political moves.
Davis chose the path of war. In early April of 1861, he sent General Beauregard and a small army to demand the Union surrender of the fort. When negotiations failed, Beauregard and his troops opened fire on the fort. They fired for more than 34 hours straight, emptying more than 4,000 rounds of ammunition. Of course, Fort Sumter was a Confederate victory, but it morally unified the North as well. After Fort Sumter, Lincoln rallied for 75,000 volunteers to join the army. His cause met with resounding support. Iowa, for example, one of the most enthusiastic states about the war, enlisted 20 times the volunteers than the army quota called for. Although this minor skirmish unified the North, it also paved the way for one of the bloodiest wars in American history, the infamous Civil War. As one Union soldier put it, the first shot fired at Fort Sumter sounded the death bell for slavery.